and welcome to Admit One, your movie and TV podcast right here on Rabbit Hole Media. I am one of your hosts, Jack Nedley Thompson, and as always, and as usual, I am joined by my platonic husband, Kristian Lasham.
Look for the light.
Indeed. This week I am also joined by the problem, Charlie Cooper.
I don't know why it's taken us that long to work out a nickname for him.
I'm not going to argue that. I'm more than happy with that.
You're so
had a nickname
loud.
for him.
The king of the dad joke.
Oh, yeah. So,
Oh, yeah, which to be frank, because I don't tell that many dad jokes. I tell dad jokes.
yeah.
That many.
So we've settled. You are the problem.
The problem. I like it.
You are the problem. You are the problem. Everyone had something to say, so I'm just going to say, hold the tongue on that. That was my...
What?
referencing something in The Last of Us.
I get it. It took me a minute, but I get it.
I don't. What?
You'll get there. Turn around and you'll suss it.
Ah.
There is not a single tongue on that picture, but
Yeah, it's Rolling Stones logo, yeah.
Both of those people have tongues.
Hello, all. How are we?
I'm alright.
You go. You've not been on for a while, so you talk.
I'm good. I've done a thing.
Oh, that's not
Oh,
right.
fuck.
know
That's
how
not
to show
right.
it.
There we go. Hey, there we go.
Basically, what's happened is Charlie's gone, I really like Jack. I'm going to copy his tattoos.
Yeah,
This is very different from... Well, it's the same emblem at one
what
point.
Charlie did there was he has a tattoo on this side of his arm, and he went, "I've done a thing."
No, I went to
Oh, I
do
can't-
that. I went to do that and then realised it only showed a little bit of text there. I was like, oh, no. Yeah, there we go.
This is fair. I've already decided my next 2 tattoos.
I'm just going to quickly give myself one now.
Not on stream, Christian. You can't go giving yourself
Wait until
one.
later. Wait until later. When the wife's away.
No, she's in the chat. Behave.
Ah, dear. Father has called you special.
Yeah, I'm used to it. I've got names for him too, but we'll leave those for later.
Wow.
Love you.
I'm on the... That's why I said it. I knew you were here. Ah, dearie me. Anyway, we're here to talk about The Last of Us finale, and probably, just to be fair, The Last of Us as a whole.
Yeah.
Because...
Both games and the TV.
yeah, we will be spoiling in detail The Last of Us Part 2. Charlie's still very loud. Which one is it?
Yeah.
12.
That might just be me.
I think it is just him.
Oh, I've turned that one up.
That would do nothing.
No. No. Ha
I don't think there's much we can do about it. I think he's just very inconsistent in his volume levels when he speaks.
Yeah.
And he is loud.
Yeah.
He is loud. Rich says it's fine.
I've fucked with it now, so it's probably not fine anymore. But it's fun. It's fun. The Last of Us. General thoughts on... We'll stick with this episode for now. General thoughts on this episode. Charlie.
I really liked it. Really liked it.
I thought you were going to end there. I was like, this is
Yeah.
why we don't have you on.
I nearly said, I haven't seen it yet. No, it's really good. It was a bit short for my liking, as is often the case in life. But I feel like it could have done with a little bit extra. It could have taken a little bit more content for the game before they got to where they got. Potentially just to pad that out a bit. It just felt like for a finale, it being one of the shorter episodes, I felt a little bit robbed. But what we did get, I thought was fantastic.
Fair. Chris.
Basically the same. I don't... The length thing's weird because it was too short, but only I think because it was a final episode. Because personally, I think, although it was too short, they still managed to deliver everything they needed to deliver to get the point across.
They got the point across, but I feel like that's the bare minimum.
For sure, but I don't...
I'm not saying they achieved the bare minimum.
No, it's just that I don't know... Personally, and obviously I'm not a TV producer or showrunner or writer, but I don't know what they could add because I feel like everything that was there was all it needed to be. So I was I thought it was fine. I think it got all the good stuff across. I think for me, as has been consistent for this series, I know we don't completely share the same viewpoint here, but for me, the important emotional moments really hit. There was a particular thing that they added that isn't in the game, a particular moment which we'll talk about, which I actually really fucking liked.
If it's the one I'm thinking of for this episode, I agree. I think it actually added a lot.
Yeah, which we'll get to in a bit.
Which is the first time.
But I mean, I really fucking... When they did it, I think I even turned to Millie and was like, oh, wow, okay. Great choice. And I think that the main action sequence was also really well done. It wasn't how I was expecting them to do it, but I really enjoyed it. Overall, pretty good, because I really like this IP, and I think it's going to be really hard to do anything of this IP that I'm not going to like. I think that's something else I've realised over the last 9 weeks is they would have had to have gone really far wrong for me to not like this in one way or another, because I just like this IP too much, and I like these characters too much to not otherwise just really enjoy it.
This is fair. I largely agree. The point where we disagree is where I would add is the action scene. I would change everything about it.
Interesting.
I think the whole kind of slow motion with weird music playing over the top.
It wasn't slow motion, it was just slow paced.
I don't mind. Well, it felt like nothing. It was. Yeah,
I think that was just because of the way everything was. He was moving slowly. It was. Cuts were infrequent. The music was slow paced. So because everything was slow, it
was the kind of the muted sound and the kind of like I don't know.
Yeah, that's it. The muted sound, all part of that.
Yeah, and I just thought it was really weird, and I would have much preferred a longer, like proper shootout scene. Is what I would have preferred. I think the way they did it for me kind of undersold how violent he was being in a weird way.
See, I saw it as the... So I'm just working out how to phrase this, because I agree. I think in a way it does undersell how violent he's being, but only in the sense of... The message I took from it was he doesn't care. And it was he had no care or compassion for any of those people. They are just obstacles to him, complete obstacles, and... It was a different version of him that we've not yet seen, where it was every form of sense and syllabance is out the window for him, and he is just calmly, I'm going to go get Eddie back. And he's quite calm throughout the entire thing, which is just, I think it's just that I'm going to go get Eddie back. No one here can stop me, because I know this is what I'm going to... I failed too many times, which has been a running theme of this show, of him failing on multiple occasions to protect Tess, to protect Sarah, to protect Ellie a number of times. And this is I keep failing. I finally got something here. I can't let this go, and just... I don't care. And I saw it as he was detached from how violent it was. So they weren't trying to hammer home how violent it was. For me, they were trying to hammer home how detached he was from that violence. That was the way I read it.
But I kind of feel like it then undersells the rest of it in a weird way. I feel like there was a way where you can still have him be incredibly calm and incredibly distant. You can still have that weird, like, almost like mute, almost like you could still show like occasional shot where it really focuses on shots where it's really focusing on Joel, where pretty much all that's happening is just a ringing in his head. Like, and things like that, but you can then cut back into like there's a way that you can do both, and I feel like just focusing in on one, you lose the other. And yeah, I would just focus on that. Hannah said make not the whole episode, but I wouldn't agree with, but like have the episode be longer and have that him fighting his way up the hospital be like a pretty fucking lengthy amount of time, as opposed to a minute. That might have been a minute. Tops.
Yeah, it was a couple of minutes. Yeah, it wasn't long.
Like.
I think that's just like that is really just a case of a different approach and what the messages they're trying to send in it, and like
of course
I don't think one would be as good. One would be better than the other, because what Hannah said in the chat there and what you're suggesting, I think also would be really, really good. But I don't think it would necessarily be better or worse than what we got.
Well, that's subjective. So so it's like that's where we disagree. I do think that would.
No,
be
I'm just discussing.
No, yeah, for sure. But yeah, so that's obviously why the whole thing is subjective, obviously.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that was the one thing, and I think that's where they could have lengthened out the episode. I think because I feel like the finale being this shortest episode is also just like
I totally agree
TV
on that
etiquette
one.
101.
Yeah.
Don't do that.
Yeah. You don't have to go full Stranger Things, but
Yeah, I'm not, saying
I
it needs
know
to
what
be
you
2.5 hours,
No.
but I do think like you could also. I do think I did like. Right, fine, whatever. The two fireflies just stumbling up behind them with a flashbang. I was like, right.
That was a bit convenient.
Yeah, I was like,
Well,
okay, sure.
this is what I would have changed. I would have put in the scene where they both need drowned.
Yeah, I don't know why
I
they
would-
didn't.
I would have put that
No,
in. That's how
I
would have
agree.
done
You don't necessarily have to do it in where she was washed away, because then like surviving that is uncommon, shall we say, especially if you can't swim.
Well,
but you
here's-
could have still had a scenario where they were climbing through, like say one of like they're climbing over the bus. Say one of the windows broke and Ellie falls in.
Yeah.
It's full of water, and then like she's just
Yeah.
stuck as opposed to washed
So
away.
for context, for those who haven't seen the game, the way they get, and I've just decided we're in spoilers.
Of course we are.
The way they get caught in the game by the Fireflies is they're working their way through the hospital, they're fighting through different infected and whatnot, blah, 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 blah. And then they're trying to cross like a river type thing, or it was like a flooded subway or whatever.
It was
Yeah,
an
it was,
underpass.
it was
Yeah.
underpass, and the end of the underpass was flooded. Yeah.
And what they've done in the game, they only really mention it once in the show, but in the game they drive home that Eddie cannot swim. So there are constant scenarios where there are water obstacles, and you've, as part of a game mechanic, you've got to work out how to traverse Eddie from one side of the water obstacle to the other because she can't swim.
There's also a chicken, a fox, and a bag of grain that you have to get across the river.
Shut the fuck up. This is why he doesn't come on.
This is why we're sending him to Dubai.
Yes. So I'd say that's something that's really heavily focused in the game, which in the show they only really mentioned once that she can't swim, and it's never really come up again. They've never even really been near water. So what happens in the game here is she gets washed away, like Joel goes after her, and then in the process of getting her out, he gets trapped in like a bus which is sinking, and despite the fact that she can't swim, she jumps in to fucking save him.
Yeah, obviously that's before she gets washed away.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's the other way around. But either way, she jumps. The point being is that she can't swim, but she jumps in to help him, and it's a really important part in terms of their story of the way their relationships developed. And obviously, we do have other things here in this episode of how their relationships developed, but that would have been a really good moment to still include, because then from that she gets washed away. He drags her up. She's unconscious because she's been underwater, and just as he's trying to revive her, then
This
patrol
also
come past.
directly plays into One Per Show cunt level of Marlene in the finale, because we'll get to that, but I have a lot to say about that, because yes,
I think Marlene was always a problem, even in the game as well.
I agree.
Yeah.
I just think she's more of a problem
I agree.
in the
She's
show.
even worse in this. Yeah.
She's way worse. We'll get into why when we get there, but I just feel like this plays into it.
I've got some stuff to say about
Because
that,
I feel like this. In fact, fuck it. Because obviously she's washed up. She's unconscious from the jump. They say they brought her back, but for me, I always just took that they got her breathing.
Yeah.
But before she went into surgery, she never woke up again
Yeah.
from that point. So obviously there was no conversation had or whatever. But in the show, they specifically say they lied to her.
Yeah, and they also specifically say she's asking for Joel.
Oh yeah. She was asking for Joel, and that they lied to her, or lied through omission about the fact that she was going to die.
Yeah.
And then, bitch has the nerve to say, like, think about the choice Ellie would make. It was like, well, you didn't give her a choice either. So at least what I'm doing, Ellie did, like, we've removed her choice, but she lives.
Yeah.
You're removing her choice. You're murdering her at this point. You know, it's not her choice to go through this. This is murder at this point. So fuck you. Bang.
I'm really interested to see people from the chat that haven't played the game before, what our audience, what their view is on whether or not Joel was right. This has been a long debate in the fandom, whatever. I firmly sit on I'm with Joel.
Yes, he's right. Largely because it doesn't matter if you make a vaccine, how are you distributing it? How are you making enough
Exactly.
for it to be in any way
My
effective?
biggest one is how the fuck do you know it's going to work?
Well, yeah,
Now,
how do you know
the
it's going to
other thing-
work?
That doctor, he's like wanting his 40s. I saw somebody do it on a TikTok about this, and I completely they hit it on the head. That doesn't mean he's 40s. He's probably just past med school when the outbreak happened. Probably hasn't done his residency, and he's somehow not only a brain surgeon but knows how to make vaccines as well out of something you've never been
This is
experimented
always
on
a
before.
post-apocalyptic thing. They always think doctor is all-encompassing.
Yes.
It's like, no. you get to a certain point where you kind of like think of it like school. You get to a certain point, and then you start picking your specialties.
Yeah. You
Start
pick
picking your
options.
subjects and pick your options. Like that's very similar to the way a medical profession will work. You start obviously going to med school, and then
it's the same with law. It's the same with
you start picking your niche. You start.
Hannah gets it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, we always knew Hannah was going to get it because I feel like she has.
Third dinner says 100%. The synthesis of a vaccine is way more complicated than take brain.
Yes. And also then you've just got a regime. The Fireflies. You've got a regime with power now all of a sudden because they control the vaccine. So basically, they would just turn into Fedra.
Yeah, absolutely.
They would choose who to give it in when, like, the answer is there and it's free. You just you sacrifice many people, get pregnant, get bitten.
I was going to get to that. But see, with the whole Joel right thing as well, I've always been on Joel's side because, again, like, if any... Mainly because I think...
I feel like you would do that if they were threatening your cat.
Oh, I would do worse. But also, I think just the way the Fireflies and the way Marlene played the situation made that happen. Mm-hmm. I think there is a world where Marlene and the Fireflies could have played it out differently, and Joel may have even gone, this is what Ellie wants. I will say my goodbyes and I will help her do this. I will help her do what she wants to do. But what happened was Marlene separated them, lied to Ellie, did not let Ellie know what was going on, let her have a choice, did not let her see Joel, did not let Joel see her, did not let them talk, nothing. And I know she has no reason to assume they have any form of kinship. The last time she saw Joel...
I feel like that becomes then inferred when now they've been together for a year and Ellie specifically asks for
Exactly. There's enough there to work that out, I think. And if anything as well, like... talk to Ellie, give her the choice. And considering the whole point of this, and this is in the game, but they drive on it harder in this, is that she was really good friends with her mum. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Like, also, shitty move to your dead friend. Give her the
Marlene
choice.
has
Talk
no
to her.
redeeming qualities. I was listening to the
I'm glad she dies.
Yeah. I was always glad she dies. I thought she was a shitty human in the game as well, but now she's just an even shittier human. I was listening to the Sacred Symbols podcast, and Micah was just like, I think they made her more human by her giving Joel Ellie's knife. I was like, right. But she also lied to everyone, but didn't happen in the game.
Sorry, Hannah says, had it been a year? Yes.
Yeah.
This is over the course of a year.
Yeah.
Pretty much. I don't think it quite. It's like
pretty
mostly.
10 months or something,
Yeah.
It passes over.
It goes from
4
summer
seasons.
to summer. Yeah. Yes. It's much. To be fair, it is much clearer that it's been that long in the game. Yeah. But I just think the worst, and just as satisfying. You'll just come for her.
Oh yeah.
Just as satisfying.
Yeah.
Love it.
As I say, I think if like they had that opportunity to talk, and Ellie was told and she knew she had a choice of there's a chance I would have to sacrifice myself, but it means they might be able to do this, and she talks through it with Joel, and if she says, Joel, I want to do this,
I think if it came from Ellie, like he wouldn't have fucking liked it.
He wouldn't have liked it, but he would have gone, okay, if this is what you want, I'm not happy about it, but I'm gonna help you do it, because I think any good dad would. So what? Millie said he is rather attached considering I went out and put a deposit on her income. Oh, he's talking about the cat. Yes, I blame you for the cat. I've lost my train of thought now.
To be fair, I would do that if someone took my PlayStation.
Oh yeah, I understand.
Yeah, particularly how hard they were to get at one point. Fucking hell.
To be fair, we didn't have any difficulty
You
whatsoever.
didn't know.
Yes, we just did it.
Yeah.
I just got a text from it. The pre-orders are live.
Ordered.
And then the morning of release, we went to Red Hill
yeah.
and got one. It was very easy.
This is very, very easy.
It wasn't that easy for everybody.
They weren't trying hard enough.
Yeah,
Fuck off. I stayed up till 3 o'clock in the morning some days trying to
look
get one.
inward.
I don't know what else I was supposed to do.
Get one on Facebook Marketplace for £9,000.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Although now people are selling them for 150 quid on Facebook. I'm like, nonsense. You are a scammer.
Yeah.
Yes.
Just take it to CEX and you'll probably get 600. You'll probably still make a profit considering they're still selling. Anyway, but yes, I would murder a lot of people for very little reason. So I definitely agree with
and
Joel.
I think the other side of it, as I say, is like he's also angry. He's angry in the situation. He's not just I want her back. It's fuck you. Like there is an element of revenge to it as well. I think of like he's not happy with the entire situation. He's angry about the situation. Obviously, then the other part of the conversation of was he right is the way he straight up lies to her, and that's a deep conversation. I don't know the right answer there, but obviously it becomes such a talking point for the next going forward without spoiling anything.
Yep.
That's not something that's just ignored from here. But
No, it's definitely not, and that is obviously the more questionable bit, like on whether or not he was right. Like you get why, but at the same time, like yeah. But this is this is the exact thing that they did that made us think that you were right in the first place. So now you're doing it again. So,
and I love that. I think performances of both the actors here. I really like Bella Ramsey throughout this entire show.
Yeah, me too.
But
I think they're both great. There was for me, it was always just moments where I was just like, I think, like again, it's hard to separate.
Yeah.
So and you're like, because I've formed those particular scenes because I've formed an attachment to it. So when it's different, it's a bit weird.
Yeah.
And I'm just like,
it's Uncanny Valley.
Yeah. And there's still an element of like, I think it was done better in the game, but is that just my who knows? I still think they were both fantastic.
A moment like that for me was in the first episode where he says, "I'm sure you'll figure that out," and that's it's a completely different tone. So in the game, it's like, "I'm sure you will figure that out." And it's like, "I'm sure you'll figure that out." Like he's much harsher and snap. I was like, "Oh, okay, that was," and those tiny little things, like you say, like that for some reason that didn't sit right. But it's not a criticism. It's just like you say, we've already got that attachment to the scenes.
Mm-hmm. Where I was going now, I think Bella really sells the okay.
Mm-hmm.
I actually think she sells it better than Ashley Johnson did personally, because
that was trending on Twitter. Just okay.
Yeah, like I obviously there's always a thing of what is Ellie saying when she's saying okay, what she's saying, and everyone's had their different interpretations. And I've always seen it as that.
I know you're lying.
I know you're lying, but if you're going to tell me that, fine.
I'm choosing to believe you.
Not even choosing to believe you. I'm not going to have this argument with you yet. But I'm not dropping. I've always had it like, I'm not going to drop this. But fine. If that's what you're going to keep lying to me, fine. An acceptance type thing. And I think Bella really sells that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I do think there's a lot more mystery in the game behind that okay. Because we never really know, and this was another point brought up from podcast was we never really know what Ellie actually knows and has been told from the get-go. We know that she doesn't know it will kill her, but she might have been told there's going to be surgery involved and then she can put two and two together. We know that it must be some form of common knowledge that cordyceps grows in the brain because Joel knows that. Yes. Hannah had to stop the episode, die to the loo. She came back and all that was left was, okay.
That's really funny.
Obviously, it wasn't okay, but I can't act. So, but to be fair, I've never tried. Maybe I'm incredible.
Do it right now.
No.
Are you acting as someone who can't act?
Yeah, exactly.
10
out of 10.
Amazing.
10 out of 10.
Nailed it.
I would be a fantastic, slightly flamboyantly aggressive 30-year-old white guy.
So you'd be fantastic playing yourself.
Yeah. I think you make a good, like, over-the-top villain, like comic book villain.
Oh, that'd be great.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
I can imagine you playing.
Did we not see
Riddler?
My Green Goblin performance?
Oh, yeah.
I played Green Goblin and Aunt May. Suck that, Willem.
Oh, that's hilarious.
So the only acting would be pretending that you were a year older. 3 months older.
3 months older.
Yeah. That's twice I've nearly knocked things over by just existing.
Where were we?
I don't know. What were we talking about?
Putting together, because it should be common knowledge that cordyceps knows grows on the ground.
And there's potential there that she could have figured out.
Yeah.
Already. But here we know, we kind of implied that she doesn't know the whole "my blood is medicine" thing. And obviously you could write that off by just saying that she was grasping, which she was obviously, but and also the fact that they're just like, we didn't tell her anything, so there's no fear or anything like that, which implies that even if they had told her, they wouldn't have given her a fucking choice.
Yeah.
To say that there was fear involved, but yeah, I'm glad they're all dead.
I want to talk about Rabbit Hole being right.
Man, I was chuffed.
Context, do you know what we're talking about? I'm thinking.
I know.
This hasn't happened in a while.
I know the rabbit hole was right. Yeah, I know that's a bit of a.
No, I mean in this particular instance.
But why?
Okay, no, give me the context.
We predicted last week that they were going to be doing with Ellie's mum was explaining why she was immune.
Oh yeah, I thought that as well.
Yeah.
No, yeah, but did you know what? Like literally, we guessed.
We
It
guessed.
was going to be because she got bitten. Yeah, I thought that's what it would be.
Yeah, blade, essentially.
I have no problem with that. It makes sense to me.
No problem with
So in some of the other podcasts and press stuff.
Hang on, she gave birth like 2 seconds after her being bitten, right? Is that right? Am I...
Just about around the same time, yeah. What?
So it was that quick for it to have that effect on the baby?
It is quick. Like they say anyway that the cordyceps, once it's in you, it doesn't take you very long to turn because it's there.
Yeah.
And if you think of Tess, I was bitten an hour ago and this is already worse.
Yeah, okay, no, fair enough.
The cordyceps,
Yeah.
once it's in you, it's in you. It's spread.
That
And obviously,
goes
like,
after
the baby's still connected to her, so
Yeah.
it's the thing. And what they say, what Marlene says at the end
I've
is...
just realised that scene completely goes against the sign at the beginning. In episode 1, there is a sign that tells you how quick the changes in the affection, and depending on where you get bitten. And it was like 5 minutes, shoulder upwards, neck upwards. And obviously she was bitten an hour ago. So.
Millie's just texted me, says she's lost connection. Just then rejoin. Texting me.
Umbilical cord. Yeah, but she cut that real quick. Quick. But basically they established that it goes through very, very quickly.
Right.
Yeah, and then Marlene sort of says at the end, the whole idea of why she's immune is there is cordyceps already in her, so cordyceps thinks she's cordyceps. And obviously I said there's enough cordyceps in her blood but to be there, but not enough to do anything.
So there's a chemical messenger, as I believe how they phrase it. So that there is an enzyme in her blood that basically just says, "Yo,
We're already here.
we're already here." Yeah.
Which is why it's not doing anything. So that makes sense, and I buy it. But as you implied at the beginning, that also does mean that they know not only that she is immune, but why.
Yep.
Which means she is not the only way.
Yeah.
She's not the only option. Like in the game, they really drive home this idea of we don't even know why she's immune. We've never seen this before. She is the only way to fix this. But now actually what we've got is this idea that they do know why she's immune. They know how it happened and they know what it is that's making her immune. So although not ideal, they can probably...
They're always talking about sacrifice.
Yes.
You just sacrifice your generation.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, like surely there is someone, like, if they're that worried about sacrificing someone, surely there is someone within that team or within the group of Fireflies that is pregnant and willing to sacrifice themselves to create another immune child. Or I would also argue, if you've worked out that there's a chemical messenger in her because the cordyceps was in there, I would argue that this 20-year-old doctor or whatever could probably work out a way of just taking cordyceps and finding a way of reverse engineering cordyceps alone to create that chemical messenger. I don't believe that there isn't another way of doing it. They just don't want to look very hard.
Oh, yeah. Well, I think that also leans into the fact that this doctor's an idiot.
Yes.
Because, as you say, like he can't have been a doctor for very long before. No. Like, there's no chance in hell, based on his age, that he was ever
I'm sure
a fully trained neurosurgeon
to study with books that he'd found and that kind of thing. But
for sure,
but not
no
practicing.
No live real world, practicing. And there's it's not even as if they would have access to things even if they were able to keep technology going at that time in history to like simulators and stuff like that. I wouldn't have thought they would have those. It was 2003, the outbreak in this version of the story, wasn't it? So, yeah, it's
Yeah, Surgeon Simulator wasn't out yet.
Yeah. Better off with Goat Simulator.
That also wasn't out, unfortunately.
Oh.
In 2003. What was that? I don't even... Ratchet and Clank. That was out.
Yeah, not
played that?
not helpful.
Might have been. Could teach you how to really swing a wrench
Yeah.
and make friends with a little robot.
But how does that get rid of cordyceps?
If you had a fully functioning AI robot, I'm sure they could fucking Google it.
All right, fair enough. Fair enough.
That's all AI does, doesn't it? It just let me Google it. Yeah, cool.
Yeah, sweet.
The answer is you don't, in reality.
Yeah.
You're fucked.
Yep.
Otherwise, what was your... Because I know... Obviously, I've been intrigued in your input as well, but I know it's been a running conversation of ours over the last 9 weeks of them adding these extra things or changing things. How did you feel about the addition at the beginning of Anna?
I think this one was fine. I think, obviously, it does help that we were right.
Mm-hmm.
That does help me like it more. It certainly helps. But I think it's good. It was also just a nice way to see Ashley Johnson.
Yeah.
And adds a bit more...
It happened, by the way. Just as soon as she was on screen, like she grunts as she's running through it, and I was like, Ellie!
Yeah. Yeah, she did. It happened before she even said a word.
Yes.
It was more just like, I was like, it's her. It's her.
To the point, though, where because I didn't really see it was Ashley Johnson at first, my first thing was it was Ellie. I honestly just thought, it's Ellie. And I thought, and then I was like, that's not better.
To be fair,
no, because I've worked it out. I'm being an idiot.
To be fair, I immediately knew it was Ashley Johnson because I knew what Ashley Johnson was wearing in the show.
I wasn't just paying... I think I was eating my dinner at the same time. I wasn't paying enough attention. I
see.
heard the noise and went, Ellie, I'm watching Ellie. Oh, no, I'm not watching Ellie. This is Ashley Johnson. This makes more sense.
I'm not watching Ellie. I'm watching Ellie.
Yes.
But no, I thought it was fine. I thought it was fine. Again, this is one of the reasons why I'm just like, make the episode longer because you've taken up time with this, and I think this would be fine if you then made up the time for the other stuff. I think my biggest problem really, other than Kathleen, fuck Kathleen and everything to do with her. It was shit and useless and pointless. I hated all of it. But everything else was like, you can have this, but you shouldn't be sacrificing time with Joel and Ellie to have this. And that's what I felt like the show, that was the biggest problem for me with the show, was all of these additions, not only are they unnecessary, but they're sacrificing what's necessary.
Yeah.
So if they just made up the time, essentially, I think it would be okay. So if this episode was 10, 15 minutes longer, I think it would have been better. But as the additions go, I think this was probably the best one.
I agree with that.
Yeah, I think it was the best one.
Because it also adds something to the characters that are important.
Yeah.
None of the others do. It's a fucking... The outbreak happening in Indonesia. That couldn't be less relevant. And then I don't mind the TV one so much because it's about 2 minutes long. But the Sam and Henry one, you're adding stuff to other characters. And the David one, you're adding stuff to other characters. At least this one was like, we're getting more information about Ellie at this point. Like one of the main characters. Information we don't necessarily need and we never got in the game or anything like that. But that's fine. You're giving us more for those main characters. But none of the others do that.
Yeah, fair enough. I want to talk about the moment they added, which I loved.
Yeah, I think I know what you're going to say.
Yes. So this is when they're walking through this sort of hospital base, this sort of refuge camp thing, and they're chatting. So obviously in the game, this is pretty much out of the game for the most part of them walking through and they're discussing and he's openly talking about Sarah with her and you can see their relationship has really come together a lot more. They also had at the beginning of this episode, that's reminded me, they did the fucking thing from the game where he's like, let me boost you up here, and she's miles away, which is like, I always talk about this point in the game as being a really great moment in a game dynamic.
They really pulled it off well as well.
And because it's a cliche game mechanics where you have to boost your buddy up a wall, or they boost you up a wall. Especially in Naughty Dog games. And it's a running thing throughout all of this. And then suddenly there is a point where you have to boost her up a wall when she doesn't come over. And in the game, it makes you actually walk over and interact with her. Which I've always said that's a really, really great choice within the game for a very important character moment. And the fact they captured that in this as well, I really, really liked, because it is a really good moment from the game. And although it doesn't have quite the same impact, it's just a nice nod to recognise that moment's there and exists.
That's not the same time where she runs off, is it? That's earlier than when she runs off.
No, this is in the game. It happens now. It happens after the thing with David. The running off thing is
no. Sorry, I mean the running off at the top of the ladder.
Oh,
for, like running off for the giraffe
different.
And her being distant to get the ladder is two separate. Occasions
they're near each other, but
yeah, they're in the same section. Yeah. They were both in Salt Lake.
Yes,
but they're not the exact same one. That's where I was just like, is it the same one? I know, but they're not. Correct.
Yeah. So see, that moment was already good. But the whole part of them walking through this like hospital thing, and they're just talking openly and talking about Sarah and their histories and stuff. And in this extra bit they've added is Joel opening up to her about his scar, and something that they mentioned early on. And this idea is like, I'm the guy that shot and missed. I thought it was really fucking good. I thought it was when they started with it, I was like, oh, I'm not sure how I feel about Joe wanting to do that. And then as they had the conversation went on, and I think where the conversation ended in particular with him just saying to Ellie, when she says, I suppose time heals all wounds.
It wasn't time that did it.
Oh. Yeah. Oh. God, that was just another point where I was like, how does this franchise keep doing this to me? Every time it finds a way.
This is one of the only things I've heard Craig Mazin talk about with this entire show, is talking about this. And it was just like, throughout this entire show, we've obviously kind of seen how much Joel means to Ellie. And how she feels about that. And obviously she has this now that father figure and what have you. But this is the first time she ever even considers what she means to him.
Yeah.
And that obviously that look that fucking Bella gives him.
Yeah. It's so good.
Just I don't know what to do with this information. Like, it's just an overwhelming amount of information.
I love
that look though. I was just like, and there are people online who are just like, this isn't Ellie. I was like, fucking is. Yeah, fucking is. Like, Christ.
It was great. Really, I think it was really important. And I think, considering there were other moments from the game that we didn't have, like we didn't have the photograph of Sarah and stuff like that, this was a really good way of still creating an important moment of them really showing their real bond now. And I think it worked really, really well. Really well.
Agreed.
Big fan.
Agreed.
Tell me about your big tongue.
Stop, I can only get so erect.
The table is rising. Giraffe.
Yeah, Giraffe.
Giraffe. I feel like this was always going to happen in the show. There was no way they weren't going to do the giraffe. It's
one of the best, most
it's one of the.
If they didn't, I'd have rioted.
It was one of the best moments. Also, at this point, it's iconic. Like when you think of The Last of Us, weirdly enough, like when you describe what The Last of Us is to people, they would never imagine that what they would think about every time they think about The Last of Us is a giraffe. But I just feel like it's one of those moments. It's like you have no idea. Like you would never expect to see a giraffe in this scenario. Not only like these giraffes have clearly been around a long time. I don't even know how long giraffes
live a long while. Yeah,
I'm sure they do. But they've clearly been around for a long time.
There are baby ones.
There is a baby one. I don't think there is in the game.
No, there's
is there?
Well,
but
you
there
see like a family of
you
giraffes.
see a herd of them, yeah, but like or whatever a group of giraffes is
I
called.
think it's a herd.
What is a group of giraffes called?
Herd, would say.
It's herd.
Well, apparently giraffes live around 25 years.
It's quite a while.
So these
it's been 20 years. Like, it's quite plausible they had young giraffes at the zoo.
Yeah, they're all animals that have.
It's quite possible they've been breeding.
Yeah.
Well, they have. There's baby ones.
Yeah.
So they have been. So very well, it could be not one that's been there for 20 years, but also they're like the most unviolent animals you could possibly fucking think of, and they're still kicking.
Yeah.
There's a big thing about they incentive drama said it's about like the innocence to represent the innocence that is still in the world. Is the whole reason for their existence in the game.
It's just it's an important part to come, especially come when it did, because obviously it shows that Ellie is not completely gone and lost from what happened with David. There is still a child in there, still a young teenager in there, and obviously this is the first time. Since then, it kind of implies that Joel's seen her smile at the very least, or like probably giggle. Did you know giraffes are bisexual?
Well, all of them.
Most of nature is, I'm pretty sure.
I like the Eddie as well reference. Yeah. So, all giraffes are bisexual? Is that what you're saying?
I think all animals are bisexual, to be perfectly honest.
What, every single animal? Like,
Yeah, I don't think they care. That's a human thing.
I see. Right.
An animal will fuck anything if it needs to.
Yeah.
Lions specifically fuck other male lions to gain extra strength within their pride.
Like prison.
No, as in so that the men then form the bond so that they have a larger, more protected pride.
Wow.
I went to a zoo once, and
Men were fucking everywhere.
there was some form of monkey enclosure. I can't remember exactly what type of monkey it was. And Mum and I were standing looking at all the monkeys, and they were just about to do like one of the feeds and the talks as we were waiting. And then Mum tapped my shoulder and pointed because there were two monkeys going at it, right? And we were laughing. And then the talk started, and the first thing they said that it was an enclosure full of male monkeys, and Mum and I were just in hysterics. There's always people like, "What were you laughing at?" Because we have just seen some homosexual monkeys go into town.
God, good thing I didn't put that scene in the university bit.
It would have been funny.
It would have been. It would have taken away from the seriousness, though, wouldn't it?
Just a smidge. Especially considering that's just before Joel got skewered with the end of a baseball bat.
But there's two monkeys in the background.
But the giraffe moment, I think, is such a good moment in the game because it's out of nowhere as well. And they give it the same kind of reveal in this of walking around the corner to the big open thing and the giraffe just there. And the contrast of colour from this broken grey, this building they walk through, which is in rubble, turn around the corner to just this bright greenery, this nature. And it's such a contrast. And that's really important as well, that it's a contrast of emotion and stuff. It worked really well in this as well. And a real giraffe. And the mad thing is about it being a real giraffe is I saw many people on the internet. Jesus. I saw many people on the internet complaining that the CGI on the giraffe wasn't very good.
Real giraffe.
The real giraffe. Just proving that people will make shit up
Oh, fucking hell.
wherever they can just to get a point across.
I don't think they're making it up. I do think that scene looked dodgy. Not dodgy, like it looked slightly off.
Because it's not green screened.
Well, it's blue screen.
Blue screen, yeah, but even not fully because they had to do it in a fucking giraffe enclosure, so it's not.
Oh yeah, I know. It's but the compositing's off. That's the compositing, the lighting, and like it's not right. It's not bad by any stretch of the imagination. It's just not right. So there is an uncanny valley sentiment there. But people don't know as much as effects as we do. So some people can't place why things are off.
Yeah.
Whereas we're closer to. So I don't think they were just like, oh, the giraffe looks funny. It was like, no. Everything else looks funny.
Yeah.
I still think it looked great though. Like there were some weird compositing things throughout it, but like I don't know. Although I see them, because this was like the conversation with Civil War last week. Although I see them, they just don't bother me. I see them and go, yeah, okay, cool, fine.
Like,
don't care. Still looks fucking great to look at. Like,
which is really funny considering how much bothers you about games. For that exact same like sort of thing, things looking out of graphical things really bother you with the games and things like that.
But only when it's like, only with things where it's like, I have seen lesser games do this better.
Yeah, yes and no, but I've seen lesser shows do green screen better. Like, I'm not saying it should bother you. I'm just saying I
feel like it's a slightly different thing, but fair point.
Yeah, no.
In fairness, how the change in aspect ratio really gets my back up as well.
Yeah, it fucking bothers me.
Well, tell you what, Lizzie never used to notice it, and I started bitching about it when watching a film once. She's like, I fucking hate you.
Well, this is because the change of an aspect ratio is a conscious creative choice and a fucking dumb one. That's all.
They looked completely CGI. No, they didn't. That giraffe looked very real because it fucking was.
Yeah.
There's no way.
I imagine the rest of the giraffes were CG on the.
I did say that giraffe.
Oh yeah, no, I was just.
Yeah. The rest of them would have definitely been.
Yeah.
Just part of the thing. Just part of the image that they used in the background. But that giraffe was a real giraffe. Oh God, fuck with that. I'm surprised they didn't just get the giraffe brought to them.
Apparently, on the podcast they were talking about it. It was just that because of like fucking different laws and unions and stuff, they couldn't bring a giraffe to them, so they had to go to a giraffe.
Because that happens all the time. Zoos bring animals to film sets.
I imagine
all the time.
I imagine it's or the type of, because it's a giraffe in particular. Obviously, they're fucking large creatures.
I do find it amusing that they managed to get a freshly born human easier than they got a giraffe. That's
the giraffes are in a union.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think it would be more the handlers that are in some form of union than the giraffe itself. However, I would fight for giraffe rights.
Yeah, I like giraffes.
I'd fight a giraffe.
I was at a zoo once, and there was a giraffe thing where you could feed giraffes, and I watched a giraffe steal a pair of glasses off a man's face and eat them. It was fucking hilarious.
Yeah, we were at Wingham Wildlife Park a couple of years ago, and they got a giraffe at a platform you can go up to, so you're a giraffe's head, and it's the coolest thing.
Yep.
Giraffes are cool as fuck.
I have fed a giraffe, and I concur with Eddie's reaction to feeding a giraffe.
Giggle?
Yes. It's fucking. I don't know what it is. It's something about them. It's like.
It's like any animal when you feed. Like they don't.
What is it with feeding animals, which is just incredible? It's something
about
it.
It's something weird. It's more like an animal you would never really like come across normally. Like feeding a dog, fine. Like, it is cute.
Yeah. I know. I still enjoy feeding dogs.
Oh yeah, you still enjoy it. You still enjoy it, but it's not like, oh my god.
Yeah.
But if you're like, I fed a rhino. That's. I'm going on Twitter. I fed a fucking rhino.
Yeah.
That is, I take a picture of that as I get a video.
Unbelievable holding and feeding a koala. That was.
I would love to feed like a lion or a tiger.
That'd be fucking great.
Yeah,
with tigers you can. Anyway.
I'd fucking love to. I love.
Should we do a Goes Row where we go to a zoo? I don't like zoos.
Oh, I love zoos.
So I like the concept of them, but I don't like them existing. If that makes sense. Like, I like being at them, but I don't like them existing.
I have no problems with zoos existing because nowadays the vast majority of zoos do genuinely do more good than anything else, because a lot of these animals are massively endangered, and it gives them a chance to still be alive. So there's a lot of zoos I have no problem with. Some you go to, like, this is an old zoo, these fucking enclosures are tiny, this is shit. There are some that exist that still need work, but I tend to only go to the bigger zoos, and they tend to be like, these are good places. It seems like the animals are getting a good lifestyle here, and they're even getting an element of freedom. Some of them, places like Longleat, for example, which is just massive.
Longleat, I wouldn't call a zoo though.
It is though.
I know, but you wouldn't call that a zoo. That's more of like it feels closer to a safari.
Yeah, it's a wildlife reserve. But that's what these zoos are more wildlife reserves that are big open spaces.
Yeah, well, okay, fine. By zoo, I mean more of a traditional. They are in a cage.
Yeah, I don't think there's that many left like that, because even the ones that are, they tend to be fucking massive enclosures.
Yeah, there's one. The one I went to with the giraffe, we fed penguins there as well, and a lot of their animals there.
Penguins are fucking great.
My favourite.
Meerkats.
Yep.
Love them.
We had penguins were our cake topper at our wedding.
I remember.
But they have the penguins that had been bred there as conservation, and they had two male lions that were in one big enclosure together.
With the penguins?
No. It was Madagascar.
Lions don't eat penguins.
I think they would have had a chance.
I'm sure it's probably because they've never really encountered each other.
But these
otters are also
two
great.
lions have been saved from a circus.
The reason they don't eat them is they don't like that layer of chocolate in the middle.
They think the jokes on the packet are so shit. They just bin that off.
I haven't had a penguin in years.
No, I wish we had some penguins. We have got some lions in the
We've
fridge.
got some
We
lions
have got lions in the fridge, yeah. White ones. White chocolate lions.
I do find it quite funny, and this is pretty much the thing of everyday life. I'm here going like, I don't like zoos. It's cruel. He says after eating a steak.
Yeah.
I think zoos were cruel. I think nowadays they do more good than anything, because they allow these.
There are
animals,
definitely places.
Yeah, there are.
And
I think it's Chester Zoo or Colchester.
Yeah, it's like Chester.
But big fucking zoo, which is incredible. Loads of like big spaces there.
Yeah,
and
Lizzie
loads
used to go there when she was a kid. She loves them.
some great animals too. I'd love to feed. I like cats, so I like big cats. Like I was seeing on TikTok like a video of someone that has like pet tigers or shit like that. Because in America, a lot of people do, and it's like,
I think I know the guy you mean. He has like a wildcat reserve type thing.
And it's just like going up and like boop to the tigers. It's like, I want to fucking look how cute it is. It would destroy me, but look at it.
Yeah. God, watch fucking that Joe Exotic thing. See if that changes your mind.
I've seen some of that.
Yeah,
and,
Tiger King.
The tigers are still fucking incredible.
They are.
Oh yeah, but that was a him problem.
Oh yeah, he's a fucking lunatic.
There are some people say like you can't domesticate these animals. I'm like, yeah, but you mostly can.
Yeah.
Like, of course you can. Like, to a degree, you can. The problem is they don't really interact with humans. That's the where
Do you know about the Harrods tigers?
I know that there used to be tigers in Harrods.
Yeah, so there was like or it might be lions. I remember there were some that were bought from Harrods and raised, and then they released them into the wild, and then the owners went back like years later.
Oh yeah, and they recognise them.
And they recognise them, and it's such a heartwarming clip of these lions like looking and double take, and then recognizing and running up and not greeting them, and playing
so
with
happy
them,
to
and
see
it's
it.
just like
I laughed then because I thought you just say they grew up and they released them into Harrods.
Feed!
They shoot the buffet in the food hall.
oh dear.
To be fair, if I had to be violently murdered, it would be by. I was going to say I couldn't decide between a tiger or a lion. Let's go liger.
You don't want to get killed by an omnivore like a bear because that'll play with you. A lion will just fucking kill you.
Will it? It's been a while.
You can get some bears on Grindr.
There's like a
And giraffes,
there's like
apparently.
a whole community, isn't there?
What, bears?
Yeah.
Well, it's just a type of person, yes.
Isn't there like a whole like? Forgive me, because I may just not know this information correctly. So forgive me. Isn't there like this whole community of like big bears and like big like they're all like gay men that?
Yeah, big hairy gay men.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're called bears, yeah.
Yeah. Thought so.
Yeah. There are otters as well. I don't know what that is. I've just heard it.
I'm not sure I want to know.
Something about being wet and slimy.
Yeah, I guess.
Hey, Jack! And I'm the problem. Fucking hell.
Yes, you are. I don't know. I don't know. Anyway, should we talk about the last of us?
So, Last of Us as a whole, Charlie, what did you think of The Last of Us as a show as a whole?
Really enjoyed it. It's never going to be the game. That's just it. Never was. It can't be. Fucking hell, Hannah. I think everything they did that was sort of like a straight adaptation of scenes from the game was bang on. The only major issue I had was that the woman from 2.5 Men.
Kathleen.
Kathleen. Yeah, she. Other than that, I didn't actually have any problems with the changes they made, the additions. I didn't mind the cold openings at all, particularly not on the first episode. I thought that was really cool. But yeah, overall, I thought it was very good. Very, very good. And I'm looking forward to see how they adapt what I'm imagining will be the first half of the second game in the next series.
Fair enough. Jack?
Cool. Kristian?
Overall, I really liked it. So, for those of you who don't know, I have nothing that even resembles a life. So on Tuesday, I watched all of it.
I'm jealous.
I watched the whole show on Tuesday. It took me about 13 hours because breaks. I do need to move from time to time, even though I don't like to. I need to, because otherwise, if I then didn't move for that entire time, there would be the loudest of pops. If I then stood up.
Third dinner says, my favourite bit was when Joel woke up Ellie and said, "You were the last of them," and she said, "No, we're the last of us."
What?
And then Groot appeared.
Oh.
We are T-Lao. No, I really liked it overall. So watching it through, there was definitely a spike in quality. For me, I do feel like once we got past the opening of episode 5 and we caught up, so this is Joel, Ellie, Sam and Henry together going forward, I don't really have a fault with the show. Like, there were some couple of things I'm like, why did you do it like that? That's very interesting. I don't know why you didn't like that. I think it was... But again, that's just me being attached to the game more than anything, I think. Before that, it's really, for me, I think there are some really high highs. I also think there are some really low lows. Kathleen, dog shit. Dog shit. I don't like the beginning of episode 5, as I've already said. I do feel like, although for episode 3 was fantastic in almost every way, I think it was incredibly written, performed, shot. It was an incredibly powerful and emotional episode of television. It had nothing to do with anything that was going on, and it was just kind of, again, taking time away from what was important, especially considering like one of the best parts of that game we then lost in the show. We lost it in the show.
That was my complaint when we talked about episode 3. We lost some really good moments.
I think episode 2 as a whole is really good, and then episode 1 is mostly really good, but there are some... So overall I think it's really good. But there was just some stuff where I'm just like, I wouldn't have even done this differently. I wouldn't have done it at all. And it's just in that in the middle. Mainly, I don't like Kathleen.
That's the only major problem I've got.
I'm gonna keep it. It's the only thing I straight up didn't like was, we all know I'm very hyperbolic, so my complaints dial them down by like 60%, and that's where I actually am. But with Kathleen, I'm being genuinely serious when I say fuck off. Like, absolutely fuck off. And like the most satisfying part of that entire show was her being eaten by a child clicker.
Yeah,
agreed.
That was the best thing.
It was almost worth it just to see that.
Yeah, I do feel like I don't know why I never thought the show sold that a singular non-clicker infected was that much of a threat. So it always felt weird in Left Behind. That bit when it was just one of them felt a bit odd, because the only time we've ever seen infected be a proper threat is in a horde or they're a clicker. So they never really showed anything, and you can go, they're kids, they're not, so it was a threat to them. But then you're just like, well, okay, fine. And his mum took one out when she was giving birth in labour. So I thought that was never meant to show that one is a threat. That was meant to show that Anna or Ellie's mum is a fucking beast. Is more what I was meant to take from that. So other than that, I would have said just in that particular scene, maybe just put one more in, put two infected in the whole Left Behind moment.
I would have liked to have seen more infected. Just
they have said
cool, but,
they have said that part 2 is going to.
But yeah, so I would like to see more just because they're cool. But I don't think, for me, I don't think the lack of them was a detriment to the show.
I do just
point. It would have been nice to see them. But.
I do and don't. I think, as I say, that the main thing was I wish they kind of established either
danger level.
Yeah, that one on its own could have been a real threat.
Yeah,
because if you're coming in, at least for me who's played the game, if you're coming in from the game, you know that one isn't a threat, unless a clicker can be a threat on its own, but a stalker isn't really. And all of the, for some reason, other than the first episode and Sam, there were no runners in the series. So a stalker on its own isn't really a threat. And they also specifically don't hang out one at a time. That's kind of the point of a stalker, is they're never alone. So that's where I'm coming from, obviously, from the game. So I'm looking for the thing. And then it's always just... Then you just get this moment where it's one on its own. Where in the game, obviously Left Behind, it is a group of them.
Yeah.
It is a horde. And it's just like, you've done hordes. Why couldn't you have just done a group of... one or two, like 2, maybe 3 tops. And then I think it would have been fine. Or just have a scene where one gives Joel or Tess or whatever, or even Bill, like a really hard time. And then you've then established that one is a threat. But otherwise, yeah, I do like... I like that they've said that Series 2 will have a lot more of them, and I feel because there's a lot more in that story that involves directly. Well, they'll be given more money, but also is like, I think there's a lot more story-wise, because I don't think the lack of infected took anything away from the story of this season, which I think is very important. Like the infected never really played that much of a part into the story. They do play more of a part in the story in part 2.
Yeah, massively.
There are more parts of that story that directly involve infected. So it's good that they've pointed that out. And I'm glad it's not just me. It does seem to. It's very much a thing online going, where the fuck are the infected in the zombie TV show? But yeah. But overall, I rather liked this show.
Good.
Despite the fact that we've always said it's easier to complain about things than to compliment things, especially when you're doing it long form. So this is why it always sounds like I'm complaining about everything, because it's easier. It's easier to talk about the negative things. But overall, despite all my complaining, I did really enjoy the show.
Good. I hated it.
Biggest twist of the 21st century.
I think it's obvious that I did really fucking love watching this for a number of reasons. There were things I didn't like, but I sit on the other side of the table, literally and figuratively, because what I didn't like wasn't them changing stuff. No, I'll rephrase and say what I actually was supposed to say. I didn't like them changing stuff. I didn't mind them adding things, because I was happy to see bits expanded on. You know, like when after the first episode where they added more stuff with Sarah, and I was seeing more of that and expanding on her and her character in that section, and expanding more on the world around it, I found really interesting. For the most part, I enjoyed the little bit of extra expanding here and there. There were some where I agree I don't think needed to be there. I definitely agree with all the Kathleen and the not Tommy stuff. I don't think any of it was very good, if anything.
I was like,
Perry.
not Tommy.
Jeffrey.
Yeah, Perry.
Right?
Yeah. My main thing was like,
Yeah,
we've said I don't buy that he because with the Kathleen stuff, I boiled it down in my head, and like I managed to work out, because at first I was like, I don't really know why I don't like it this much. Like I don't like Kathleen, but fine, there are many characters I don't like, but it's not the entire thing that they are encompassing that I don't like. But in this, it was, and it's like. They very much give the vibe, intentional or otherwise, that all the fighters, the soldiers, are following Perry, not Kathleen.
Yes.
They're only following Kathleen because Perry is.
Yep.
But I also don't buy that as soon as she starts making this a personal vendetta to the detriment of their safety and their benefit, he would execute her.
Yeah, I agree.
And like, there was like, oh yeah, but they're friends with his mum. I was like, I also believe he would execute her as well, just because she was speaking. Like,
yeah, I don't buy
I just
her
don't
as a leader.
buy. Yeah, like Sam's put that. She came across as insufferable. Shows do that all the time on purpose, and I despise it. Don't make a character insufferable for periods of time just so that their demise is a payoff. Walter's wife, Breaking Bad, utterly insufferable. And I hated it.
Oh, yeah, every time she was on screen, I was like, oh, fucking Skylar's here.
Mute.
Oh.
Just mute.
Why is
Nothing
it
you have
worse,
to
didn't
say
she,
is
as well?
important.
Why hasn't he killed her yet? She's the only one that doesn't die. Spoilers.
It's not true at all. Lots of he was alive. What are you talking about?
Hyperbole. Carry on.
Have you met us? What were we talking about? Yeah, but like she wasn't only just insufferable; she was incompetent. So I don't buy her in that role.
Yeah.
Like,
It's been out for years.
I was going to say, like, it started. It finished 10 years
Yes.
ago. Shush. Norman Bates is the killer in Psycho.
Batman's also Bruce Wayne.
But Man-Bat is not Wayne Bruce.
No.
Different thing.
Very.
Different thing. But, yeah, it's just, that's, but, like, none of it is believable.
Yeah. But as I say, I don't like that whole
No, he's not.
I don't like that whole section. But my issues with things is what is happening. It's really hard to concentrate.
So I was just glaring into the camera because that was possibly the stupidest thing anyone has ever said.
For the most part, I didn't mind them adding things, except for the few things which didn't add anything because they weren't adding anything. My issues are entirely more where they changed stuff that, again, didn't make anything better because you were changing something that was already fucking excellent. And there was so many moments where it's like, why have you changed that? This was really good in the game. Why have you changed it arbitrarily? And that was the biggest frustration for me because it worked really well the first time. I don't believe it's not going to work well the second time. And I say I was happy for him to add things. The only one, and it's a really weird thing, is episode 3. Because as you say, what they changed meant that there was a bunch of really important shit we didn't get from the game, which was a fucking shame. What they added didn't add anything. So really, I should hate it. But it was such a fucking good little story. I can't help but just go, fine.
Yeah.
And it is like a reluctant fine.
It's begrudging.
I'm Ellie at the end. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, fine. If this is what we've got, fine.
I
But it's
begrudgingly accept it because of how good it was. But I really wanted Bella Ramsey and Nick Offerman fucking like
I really
arguing with
blood,
each other and trading
I've
blows
been
in that way.
watching Parks recently now. I've been making Camilla watch Parks. I don't think she's getting it yet, but we're still only partway through season 2, so it's yet to get proper
so you're
good.
still in the I would argue it's shit.
Yes, it's
part of
yet. We've just watched the hunting trip episode.
Okay, yeah.
Which is, I think, one of the first episodes where it's like, that's fucking good.
Yeah.
So
there's that character in the first 2 seasons who's really him.
Danowitz, whatever. Well, he does.
Yes, good. Because then we get Chris and Ben. So
Camilla said to me the other day, she was like, I have to say, I don't see why you like this show. I was like, please bear with me. We've got to get through these first 2 seasons. Then it's a whole different
you could
thing.
just start on season 3.
Maybe, but there is I feel like there's some good character building for some of the other characters. Andy gets really important. Like, you need to know who he is.
Yeah.
And stuff like that.
It's a sitcom. I think you can figure it out.
Maybe, but if I had to suffer, show can cheat.
Fair, I understand.
But either way, obviously, I've been watching that, and Nick Offerman is just Bill, even in that. And it's like, I really wish we had seen Nick Offerman portraying the game version of Bill, and not this other element of Bill we've not seen before. Not because it was bad, but it's because when I saw that announcement, that cast announcement of Nick Offerman,
it was perfect.
Yeah, it was like, oh my god! And straight away, I was like, I can't wait to see something. And we're never going to get to see that, and that is a massive shame.
Rich says we didn't make it through the first season, sadly. Start at 3.
Yeah, honestly, I can confirm. Start at 3.
That is when it does start.
I don't think anything important happens in 1 and 2 that you can't figure out.
It's almost a different show.
It is almost a different show. When Ben and Chris show up, it becomes a whole different game, like a whole different thing. Oh, Anne Perkins, it's phenomenal. Honestly, Rob Lowe in that show is so good.
Literally one of the funniest shows I've ever seen.
Yeah, it's very funny.
There was a reference there.
You can definitely start on season 3
I think
without
so.
issue.
You wouldn't understand what was going on, but there's certain little character things that are set up in the first 2 seasons, which obviously but you can put it together.
Yeah, you can put it together. Yeah, that's and all the main running jokes start from season 3, and like all of the good stuff starts from season 3 onwards. I think, I didn't mind season 1 and 2 that much when I watched it the first time, but then I went to go and do a rewatch. I got like 2 episodes in, and I went, fucking no, and I just jumped to season 3. I was like, get out of it.
Leslie noped out.
I Leslie noped out. That was
good. It was good.
Good joke. Yep, I like it.
Anyway, just finishing off my thoughts on The Last of Us. Mostly, I do think it was real fucking good, though. I think it did a really good job of capturing the look and the feel and the tone of the show. I loved Pedro and Bella. I like Pedro Pascal anyway. Wonderful, wonderful actor. And just he seems like a nice man.
I love some of the clips of them together.
Some of the clips of him recently as well have been so funny because he's been all over the internet. Some of his, can I speak Spanish? Oh, it's so fucking funny.
I love the clip where they're talking about what they would bring to the apocalypse from Game of Thrones. And he's talking about swishing his way through the apocalypse in his cape. Have you seen that? It's really funny. Yeah, it's very funny.
So big fan of that. But mainly for me, we discussed once on this show I think it was when we were doing the Games of Our Lives episode of The Last of Us. And we said, imagine being able to play it for the first time again. Mm-hmm. And for me, this is the closest we'll ever get to have an opportunity to experience it for the first time again. And although it's not quite that, it is the closest we'll ever get. Yeah. So I was determined from episode 1 all the way through to episode 9 to relish that moment of, this is my chance to get to experience it for the first time again. And all of those really important moments, those pivotal moments that hit me every time, and I mean, like, get me. Like, I am so deeply engrossed with this IP and these characters and this story and this world that there is certain moments that every time I just hear the audio clip and I'm like, oh, like the official podcast they've been doing as part of that podcast in the design of it, every now and then they play like an audio clip from the show. And even just hearing some of those moments, hearing some of those lines, because I know what it means. And I know what it means for those characters. Even this, like, I'm like, fucking this show, man. Like this fucking thing. All those the simple thing of the okay, I swear, all that sort of stuff. The fucking Riley was the first to die. Her name was Riley, and she was the first to die. That's a great line as well, and just the delivery of it. And I hear it. It's just like, oh, and the main one for me is always and will always be the. Everyone I've ever loved or cared for has either left me or died. Everyone fucking except for you. And then you're right, I sure as hell hate your dad or whatever. It's like that whole fucking thing.
You aren't my daughter, and I sure as hell ain't your dad.
Yeah.
God, so fucking good. So I'm just so happy that I got to experience it again for the first time in a way, which was something never before I'd ever get to do. So I'm just really glad I got to do that. And I do want to go and play the first one again, and I want to play the second one again because apparently I like Misery.
Well, I'm playing through the second one again. At the
Yeah, I
moment.
know,
The only reason I'm not playing I didn't play the first one again was because I played it like
Recently.
4 months ago.
Yeah.
Which is fine. That's long enough for me to then happily play it again because it's The Last of Us.
Yeah.
But I didn't buy part one.
No, I didn't buy part
And
one either.
I've played part one, so there's no way in fuck I'm going back to remastered.
No,
Agreed.
fair enough.
Just saying.
I wouldn't if I played the part one, but I haven't. So
and I'm not. The reason I rented it instead of buying it. I'm not spending
But
£70
the main
on it
reason that I'm not playing part two, to be honest, because I guarantee, knowing my luck, because this has happened a number of times with me, I'll play it, and about a week after I play it, they'll announce a full PS5 version or some shit, because that's what they tend to fucking do.
They're not going to at this point.
But that's my luck. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, they're not going to at this point. I'm pretty sure they said they're not going to. They did a patch.
I know there's a
think.
patch. You can play it at 60 frames per second.
Yeah.
I have a question. Did we ever find out why that runner made out of Tess?
Yes?
Why?
I don't think it was ever meant to be a mystery.
But like, I never understood why that.
Well,
would
they
have been.
set up that it was the obviously they haven't got spores in this. It's done by tendrils, and that's just how they would spread the tendrils.
But biting.
Is one of the ways they can spread.
Right.
That's like saying, why does it have spores you can bite?
Okay.
It's just one of the ways you can spread other than spores is the tendrils.
Okay.
So that's how I saw it anyway.
It creeped me
I
out.
I do think it was dumb and weird.
It was weird, yeah.
Like, I think they could have just not done it and it would have been fine. It was fucking weird.
It's just
but-
particularly we never see it happen again. It was just like, I just don't understand.
To be fair, a very specific set of circumstances have to be taking place in
Yes.
order for you to get the opportunity to do that. Which is another reason why this isn't The Last of Us a problem. It's a zombie show problem. Is that when you have a fight where the characters blatantly didn't get bitten, and they were bitten, which has literally happened 3 times in this show with Ashley Johnson, Riley, and Ellie. Blatantly didn't get bitten where their bites were. I'm like, your thigh? They were nowhere near your fucking thigh, and you've been bitten there. Which is why credit where credit is due, even though it's gotten a bit questionable in quality. The Walking Dead, they've mastered the scratch. A rogue scratch is significantly easier to explain away. Yeah. I think it's. I think when you know the person you're fighting or the being you're. Christ. When you know the creature you're fighting's primary form, especially when they're human-ish, of combat is biting, I'd say it's rather easy to stop them from doing that. Because I don't know if you've noticed, your mouths have very little range.
Yes, yeah. There's not much maneuverability to them either.
So do you know how to stop a bite?
Yeah.
Like just put your hand on their forehead. Fine, sorted, done. Like maybe they're stronger than you, but at the same time, you can then just do that under the neck. They're not getting you. You're fine. But a rogue scratch doesn't matter. Doesn't fucking matter. All it takes is just a backhand at the wrong angle, or a swipe, or you grab them and they just squeeze. Like, But this is
Indeed.
just that's zombie TV problem in general.
I have a question for you. Do we want to score this?
I mean, you have to.
Yeah, I know.
Not
but
necessarily on the podcast.
I meant
but
for the podcast, do we want to score it?
I don't mind. I don't mind.
Yeah.
Well, let's discuss
I think we'd
it.
probably maybe slightly disagree. I think we'd differ. I think you'd go for one above me, I think.
I had a feeling I was going to go for one above you, yeah.
Mm.
But there's a chance for you to be outvoted. So what would you score it?
I'd settle on an 8. I think I had a bigger problem with the downs than you did. Especially as I've discussed plenty today with the Kathleen stuff. I had a
You didn't like
a
that,
big
did you?
problem with us. If we had more than a 10-point scale, I would be eking towards the 9, but I don't think it's quite there for me personally. But I get the sense you're going 9.
Charlie?
I'm going 9.
See, I will not argue to have my vote.
No. Conversation. Why? Tell me why. Why would you score it at 9?
It's more why am I not giving it a 10?
Okay.
And that is because of the issues we have discussed today. Pretty much, to be honest, the caffeine thing is pretty much the only reason why I'm not giving it a 10. Because I liked the stuff that you guys didn't like, both of you didn't like, i.e. the changes and the adding, I actually liked. But for the most part, not all of it. I liked the stuff with David and the cult. I liked the
stuff with David.
Yeah, I liked the stuff with Sam and Henry, minus Kathleen. I quite liked the cold opens. I found them quite interesting. It was like, oh, okay, this is a bit more info. Yeah, cool, whatever. Didn't bother me at all. I wouldn't say I'd rave about it. Apart from the first episode, I really liked the first episode.
I liked
one.
the first one.
The
Yeah.
I will
second
say
one, didn't
the
even- I was
only
like, eh.
reason I disliked it is because it's The Last of Us.
Yeah.
Sure.
And
It's because this isn't supposed to be what's important, so why are you telling me about it?
No, fair enough. And like, again, it's sort of like, as quite often happens with the points that you guys bring up, and I think it's just because of the way the two of you look at things is different. How I do, you've got more knowledge of how these sort of things are made. So things are going to bother you in different ways than they bother me, I would imagine. A little bit like how all three of us play music, we probably listen to music a bit differently to people who don't.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. I'd imagine it's similar to that. So yeah, for me, the only thing that I really was like, fuck this, I really, really don't like this was Kathleen. And I also just
I think
don't-
that's a shared feeling, by the way. I think a lot of people...
yes,
Yeah,
people
and
on the
thing
internet
is-
just don't know how to express that, so they decided to make it about the actor's looks.
Yes, I know.
Because they're scum. But it's just
Yeah,
like it's
it's
got
nothing to do with that. She just-
fucking nothing to. It's got nothing to do with the actor. To be fair, like I don't think she
did anything particularly wrong.
Yeah,
no,
like,
I think she did what she was paid to do. And
exactly.
Did it pretty well.
Yeah,
It
so I don't think.
didn't
I just
like
think
that.
it was an unnecessary existence.
Yeah.
No, I agree. But to be honest, I would have quite liked to have had all of that as totally faceless, nameless, like people like
Yes,
we had in
I
the
agree.
game.
I agree.
I know why. I get why they didn't do that with David's guys, and I agree with why they didn't do that with David's guys.
To be fair, the
The only one they named was
It's
got
James.
a name in the game.
yeah, and he's James in the game. Yeah,
Someone else got named. I can't
I
remember.
think
Nick
there was
Scarpino.
Josiah or something like that.
Yeah, there was a couple, I think.
to be fair, like because we got that extra stuff, it would be weird if none of them had, if they never refer to anyone by name.
And in 2, the NPCs all have names, and I think maybe they're sort of drawing towards that way
Yeah,
of
yeah.
storytelling. But yeah, like I say, for me, it's more I'm not giving it a 10 because of a little bit like God of War Ragnarok. Something happened. That's past. Can't do anything about that now. You've already lost that point.
Yeah.
It's done. That's it, really.
I actually agree with that. I think because I think beyond that point, I am definitely hearing 9, if not 10, from beyond that point.
Yeah.
It is early show stuff, and the same with God of War Ragnarok.
Yeah,
it was
yeah,
early
yeah.
game stuff where it's just like you can't earn that back now
Yeah.
because this still exists.
I can remember on a podcast, I wasn't on it, but I watched it. I think you both said, or at least one of you said, no matter what they do now, I can't, before you finished it, I can't give it a 10 because this has already happened. And that's exactly the ethos I'm applying here.
That's fair.
And I agree with you entirely as to why I wouldn't give it a 10. That's exactly the reasons why. So I'm not going to repeat myself. I'm just going to go straight in. We're giving The Last of Us a 9.
Fantastic.
Out of 10.
I was just going to say I'll read things for Richard's first because he has a score in there.
He can have his own score.
I mean, to be fair, the result would have been the same, so it's fine. Because reading the things.
Reading the things. Reading the things. We can't read, but we're reading the things. Yeah!
Rich has written, I've really liked this series. From my point of view, I think they've done very well with making the transition from game to show. There have been some great moments that have made me as emotional as the game did, and things that have even surpassed certain sections, namely the Bill and Frank episode. Great visuals, writing, and thought behind the show in general, 9 out of 10. I've really liked listening to the official podcast too, as it's given some great insight into the decisions made, as well as general trivia. Trivia. Oh my god.
Nothing Spanish. Sounds like Spanish to me.
Let's just put a pen in that.
Have you seen that sketch? I'm going to show you later.
Yeah.
That's why I'm looking at you like you're insane.
It's very funny.
It's very good.
It's also created some excellent Last of Us memes.
Yes.
There is a clip of the bit with Marlene on the floor, and it's just like, just let me go. Just let me go. And it just goes to the, let's just put a pin in that. Just can't wait for Series 2 now. I believe Hannah has sent me one as well.
You will need to wait a while, I think.
Well, for Series 2?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
If anything, Belly needs to grow a little bit. He needs to get a bit older.
Belly?
Belly.
Well, I mean, she's about to be 20. She's not growing.
Yeah, fair point.
They'll just have to find a
Stilts.
small Abby.
Oh.
No, because obviously Abby's meant to be the same age.
Yeah.
Granted, she does look older than her in the game as well, to be fair. But anyway, Hannah has said, so all I knew that The Last of Us was maybe about zombies, and there were people called Joel and Ellie, and that she was a lesbian who played the guitar. And that you guys are
pretty
really
much it,
invested
yeah.
about it. But I had no idea how I'd have... how I'd feel having no background. Well, I loved it. I feel like the infected people seem to disappear halfway through and not really be a thing much anymore. But then you all said it wasn't really about them. I'm not sure who are the good guys and the bad guys anymore. I love Joel and Lily's burgeoning... is that a word? Burgeoning? Whatever you said. Burgeoning relationship. The Bill episode and Sam episode made me cry so hard. From what you all said... oh, fuck's sake. I did so well on Rich's one!
I noticed that way you did Richard's one. I was like, oh, wow.
From what you've all said about the misery of the game, I was expecting more tears. There were probably things they spent too much time on, like Army Lady. And I would have liked more awful jokes and more infected. And Pedro gives everyone daddy issues. All in all, looking forward to part 2. I will say, misery-wise...
The misery is part 2.
Part 2 is way worse.
Yeah. The misery isn't part 1. Like, part 1 has some difficult moments, but it's not misery. It's just emotional. Misery is part 2. Part 2... Yeah. Don't look forward to part 2, because...
if they do it well, you will need therapy.
Yeah,
Yes.
literally. Because
When
I was done. I was absent for a week. Not even kidding. There was a week where I was just like, I can't do anything.
Yeah.
There was a moment where I just went, well, I'm turning this off.
Yeah, me too.
And like over the next few days, I was just like, I don't want to. I'm pretty sure I actually booked time off for the release of The Last of Us. And then I was just like, but I don't want to.
Yeah, I think you are. It is the same point that I had it.
Yes.
Yeah.
But yeah, there were so many like you're just playing this game, going, oh, but I don't want to do that. No, don't make me do that. No.
It wasn't even.
Put the controller down. I refuse.
There was that, but there's a couple of moments in that game where just like revelations you get.
Yeah.
And there was one in particular where that happened, and I was just like, fuck you. Fuck you, Neil. Fuck you, Bruce. You're not even on this game, but fuck you, Bruce. Fuck you, Joel. Fuck you, Troy. Fuck you, Ash. Fuck all of you. Fuck Haley Gross. Fuck Sean Layden. Fuck Shoehead.
Fuck Nathan Drake.
All of you. Fuck everyone. Fuck.
There were many moments that just made me go, I'm cross.
Yeah, well, when
Staff has just finished.
To be fair, Saf is staff.
Yeah.
She is, yes. Saf has just completed part 2. She's changed. It might feel different as you won't be controlling the gameplay. But I still wouldn't want to watch it.
I don't think it necessarily feel better, though.
Different,
yes.
Yeah.
Well, when credits rolled on part 2, Lucy and I just sat there like...
Camilla will vouch that there was like a week afterwards where I was broken.
Yeah.
Thank you,
third dinner.
Thank you.
Now someone else do it. We'll have a hype train. Because I didn't witness the hype train, and I like trains.
He does. I took him to see a train
did give us
station a couple of weeks ago.
You did give us a train on the day where Train Boy wasn't here, and I feel that's very rude. So you need to do it again.
T-shirt design, Train Boy.
I don't want to know what that looks like.
A train.
What's the matter with you? Just text. It says Train Boy.
Okay.
Also, this isn't a spoiler, but it's fun. This is that you end it, the credits end, and the menu's changed.
Yeah.
Yep.
That was the first one, to be fair.
Yeah, I know, but it was just that the way it changed.
Yeah, it changed in a bad way.
Yeah.
I was just like, gun in mouth. But anyway, thank you very much. Coming up on the channel, I'm out of the hype train because I didn't get a train symbol. Yeah, I don't know why, considering you initiated the goddamn thing. But here we are. Coming up on the channel tomorrow, we have Rich and people from the place playing Fortnite. People from the place. What was I trying to say?
Members of the Discord?
Yeah, something like that. Playing Fortnite. I have an Isle of Soda shirt. I also like trains. This is fair. So, Chris is Googling something. Or looking at them.
I had a message. I was just reading.
That's fair. So make sure to join in with everybody to play some Fortnite.
Okay, Rich.
Saturday, Charlie and Chris are talking about Doctor Strange.
Oh, I need to finish watching that.
I need to watch it again.
You probably should. Both of you.
Yeah.
Otherwise...
Just so I watch the right film. The first one.
Yes. If you don't mind starting from halfway through, we can finish my watch in a minute.
well, I'm not here, so I
Oh, yeah.
I'll just watch the whole thing on Saturday morning, mate.
Chris, Matt, other Charlie, and me for four. Oh, that's
No Cameroon. I thought Cameroon was...
yeah, Rich, I'm gonna message you in a bit.
But yes, good times on the channel. And then... Oh, I guess we won't be doing anything next Thursday.
No. Take a Thursday off while we work out what we're gonna do.
We'll figure it out. Although, depending on dates, I might already... No. I was wrong. So never mind.
I didn't do that.
You didn't. So, do we waffle until they're over, or do we just cut them off?
I reckon you can find something to talk about for 30 seconds.
Is other Charlie lightsaber man? Yes, I know. He works with us. I'm sure we can find something. Yes, we're very good at just waffling. I say we're very good at waffling, and he gives me an
Well, I'm on the spot, you see. So, I don't know what to do now.
Sandwiches, bagels.
Oh, like a good bagel.
I fucking love a bagel. The sesame bagels that you can get. I went downstairs to see that they were red onion and fresh herb bagels.
Oh shit, that sounds great.
Ooh. They were banging.
Yeah, that sounds.
They were banging, especially like toasted, buttered, bit of ham.
Oh, see, I would have gone toasted, bit of cream cheese.
Didn't have any.
You ever had a Brick Lane bagel? The famous bagel shop on Brick Lane.
What?
No, there's a famous bagel shop on Brick Lane in London.
I didn't hear the first part of what you said.
Oh right, okay. There's a famous bagel shop on Brick Lane in London.
That
Have you
wasn't the
ever-
first
That's not
thing
the
you
first
said.
bit you said.
You said something.
Have you ever had a Brick Lane bagel?
Right,
Right.
okay.
No,
No.
because what I heard you say was, "Have you ever had a plain
That's
bagel?"
what I heard. And I was confused.
No,
I was
they're,
like-
they're amazing.
Yes.
Oh, the thing's finished.
Bye!
We're probably going to keep talking about bagels off air because I fucking love bagels. Anyway, I want a bagel. Goodbye.
Bagel!